What's up, everyone? Welcome to the New York Mets PostGame Show. You know, appreciate you all being here. It's a tough loss. This is an absolutely just wild game for the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. The New York Mets do drop this game by a score of 7-6. Lots to talk about today. Just a back and forth game. The long ball by both teams was just absolutely mesmerizing. But the New York Mets do drop this game. This series is now tied, heading back to Queens. Rob, this is a tough pill to swallow. How are you doing today?
Yeah, it came down to not keeping the team in the ballpark, right? They got a couple of big hits, obviously, but the home run ball killed the Mets. Like, this game should have been no contest. Like, honestly, like, the game was in hand. The pitch sequencing, which we'll get to a little later, I'm not very happy about, and I seen that in the Brewers series too, especially in Game 2. But yeah, it's a tough loss. But the Mets fought back once again when they looked dead after that. After they went up 2 runs to Phillies, and they came back once again. And Vientos is becoming a star in front of our eyes in the postseason. But it took to the very end to beat us. And a couple of it is what it is at this point. We're going back to Citi Field. We're going back to Queens. So I'm still confident. This loss sucked, but this wasn't a debilitating loss like it was against the Brewers. It felt like the Brewers loss in Game 2 was demoralizing. Like, we came on this post game, not happy. We're not happy right now, but the way this team played, they deserve to win. The offense deserved to win today, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and that's what makes, right, Game 1 and taking Game 1 in Philadelphia so important, right? That's exactly what we were talking about on today's pregame with that situation. Again, Luis Severino, and I guess we should just start with Sevy here for a second. With Luis Severino, he was rolling. He was absolutely rolling. And, he gets into some trouble late. And really, the pinpoint kind of pitch that I kind of cringe at, again, now getting into pitch sequence, is that 1-2 pitch he threw to Trey Turner. That is something that, for me, the location on a 2-strike pitch, especially when you know who is behind him. Listen, we said it wasn't going to be easy this whole entire series. And yes, we're going to talk about this team because we do not shy away from losses. We're here with you all on both wins and losses. That's why we're here talking about it. It sucks to talk about, but it sucks even more because you see this game play out virtually the same way that the game where Luis Severino pitched in Philly the last go around played out. He was rolling. He was cruising. He makes a mistake, right? He faces Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper takes him deep. And that's kind of where the momentum of the game kind of falls into the Phillies' favor. Now, he also couples that by also throwing an absolute meatball the very next at bat to Nick Castellanos. And it's such a shame because Sevy was cruising. Rob, he was cruising. Yeah. In that 6th inning, he was around like 75 pitches. He puts away Trey Turner. We're talking about him being in a great position to go 7 strong. So I guess, did you kind of just feel a little bit disheartened, especially seeing Trey Turner reach on in that inning when you know that if he executes a pitch, and Trey Turner this series, really up until that point, hasn't been making solid enough contact, I'm trying to make sense of it. And I know that pitchers make mistakes, but the thing is that if you know that Bryce Harper's waiting on deck, you got to find a way to put Trey Turner away in that bat.
Yes. Yeah, and we right before I came, we started the live stream. I said the pitch sequence, pitch selection, right? When Severino gets into a little bit of trouble, or when Severino is, or it seemed like they did not want to pitch to Turner for some reason in that spot, and they were playing with him. Why are you throwing a full count slider in that spot, a sweeper, whatever you want to call it? It made no sense whatsoever. Go after him, right? You're up 3-0. He hits a home run, it's 3-1. Pretty good chance they're not going to go back to back to back. All right, there's probably a pretty good chance of that. Why are you played with him? You got cute. And this is why Severino gets in trouble in the playoffs. And he did it with the Yankees a lot. He would be cruising. This is his MO. And, it's little things like that where a great outing turns into, you can't kill him 6 innings, 3 runs. It's not terrible, but the way they happened, it just looks a lot worse. He walked nobody today. 7 strikeouts, as you have on your screen. It goes to Diaz later in the ball game, and it goes to Tyler McGill with the game and hit of Castellanos, which we also will get to, right? But with Severino, he started to get cute, right? He was feeling overly confident, which he should have been confident. No, he was mowing him down, but he went away from his fastball in the most important moment. And he loved his slider so much that he constantly used it. What was it? 4 or 5? How many sliders in a row was it to Turner? Like the guy's seen that pitch in the same spot. Every single pitch you threw that was a slider was in the same spot.
Actually, I think it was 5 to Bryce Harper, not Turner, Rob. I think it was 5 to Bryce Harper for the home run.
Correct. Yeah, that was
But it was a hanging slider to Turner on 1-2, and he did not execute that slider to Turner at all. No. And that was what was disheartening for me, because if you throw that slider on 1-2 to Trey Turner before that Bryce Harper home run, he's gonna chase. He's chased this entire series so far, right? He's gonna chase. That's what kind of bugged me.
And that's the thing too, right? Before Harper hit that home run, I'm like, you got to go up and in on him. Anytime you can get him out, you can always get him out with that low breaking ball. But if you miss with that low breaking ball, guess where it's going? It's going to get parked. He hit it the dead center. But why? Your best pitch is your fastball. We talked about this in the pregame. You got to continue that fastball. Your fastball sets up everything. But in that situation, you didn't need your slider. You didn't need a breaking pitch or an off-speed pitch. I don't understand why pitchers and catchers, because this is all on the catcher and the pitcher in this, right? The coaches don't call the game anymore. It's all the pitcher with the pitch count and all that. It's catcher and pitcher. Why they don't go to their best pitch? 99% of the time, your best pitch is your fastball. And we'll go throughout the game with the pitchers and what pitches is their best pitch. And why it's frustrating when Sevy, Diaz, and McGill didn't throw their best pitch in moments when they should have, and it cost you. Especially the one with Severino and Turner, because of the fact that you were up 3-0. You go after Turner. If you have to throw a fastball 98 right down the middle, if he turns on it, so what? There's a pretty good chance he might take that pitch and look at it, because he's trying to get on for Harper. They're down by 3 runs. So the mindset, I'm not sure with Severino and Alvarez there. This is why it scares me with a guy like Severino, whose MO is these type of moments where he gets cute, and then Alvarez is too young. And everybody, well, look, he looked a lot better behind the plate. He's blocking balls now, doing what he needs to do. But I feel like him and Severino, or just Alvarez in general specifically, because you've seen it throughout this game, they got too cute. They fall in love with a pitch, and that can hurt you. And when it's obvious and everybody knows you're throwing it, what do you expect the batter to think? That you're going to throw that pitch. So I don't know. I think this is the game. Look, it sucks that we lost. We're coming back home to Citi Field, right? It's a tough loss because we didn't win the game. We came back again, and we didn't finish the job. But it came down. The offense did their job. We needed one pitcher to come through in any of these spots, and the game is over. And we're talking about a 2-0 lead coming back home. That's why it's so frustrating, because the offense did their job. That's the frustrating part, Chris.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate everyone being here, especially after a loss. I'm not even in my usual setup. I'm literally holding my microphone right now. So that's exactly what I'm doing here to try to get this post game out to you all, because I know everyone wants to vent about this loss, because it seems like it was a game that was definitely in the Mets' grasp for so long. And even the momentum shift with that huge game tying home run and the top of the ninth by Vientos, it's like, okay, if we can escape the top slash middle of the Phillies order, I feel great heading into extras that we can kind of, take this ball game and head back to Queens up 2-0. But also, um, we said in the pregame, right? The goal was to take at least one in Philly to get 2 guaranteed home games at Citi Field. And I know this is kind of like everyone's going to be like, okay, dude, we get it. This is a tough loss. Why are we talking about, what we should have done when we could have took the first 2? I get that. But again, you know, I like the way the Mets played today most of the game. Now, again, there's going to be pitch executions where, you hang something and it's tough because a good team like the Phillies, their offense is talented. Their lineup is talented top to bottom. They were going to wake up. But compounding those mistakes, right? We saw 3, 4, 5, 6 different pitch sequence mistakes, as you're alluding to. And Severino wasn't the only one that was guilty of that. That's what kind of is frustrating for us. But again, the Mets technically did their job in Philadelphia in terms of taking one game of the 2. Now you go back home and regroup, and we'll talk about a little bit of a preview here in the pitching matchup and what we got for game 3 between the 2 teams. But take me a little bit, I guess, through your mind of what you're thinking in that last inning, specifically with Tyler McGill. You know, I thought it was the right move to try to pitch around Harper. I'm surprised they just didn't do it the old-fashioned way of just giving him the 4 base on balls. They were close. They got 2 strikes on him, and he had a good take to take the walk to set up the Castellanos walk-off. But I thought that was absolutely the right move in terms of, skirting around Bryce Harper in that situation. Now, like you said at the top of this stream, the mistake there was getting behind 3-0 on Trea Turner. You needed to get Trea Turner in that situation, and Tyler McGill just simply couldn't get it done. And at that point, I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a lot harder to get out of than I expected, because I assumed that it was going to be an intentional walk to Harper. They didn't. They tried to get him to chase, and he did on a couple of baseballs. But again, being the vet that he is, the superstar that he is, he drew the walk just like Lindor did the previous day to set up that rally, and Castellanos gets it done. Do you think that was the right decision, or do you think you need a better competitive pitch there to Bryce Harper late in that at bat?
I'm going after. Like the Turner situation. I don't know why you don't still throw all fastballs. To be quite honest with you, like if you want to bounce a ball in the dirt or something like that to show different, change the eye level a little bit, fine. But you got to throw a fastball. Like I'd rather have Turner beat you in that spot. A guy who in that spot was not looking to hit a home run. He's been struggling. He's not trying to hit a home run in that spot. He wants to get on base for Harper. That was the whole idea, right? McGill could have probably pinpointed an outside fastball on the black, and Turner would have looked at it. He was looking to walk. He wasn't looking to get on base via a hit. He was looking to get on base on a walk. And what led to Harper situation, I just don't understand. They did it twice in this game. They did it with Diaz and they did it with McGill. Why I know McGill kind of battled a little bit with Harper there, but it seemed like, Mendoza went out there and spoke to him. If I were Mendoza, and again, we don't know what he said, and he'll probably lie to us if they ask, but you go after Harper at that point, right? The reason why you go after Harper, not because I love to see Harper strike out and blow it for his team, it's just that Nick Castellanos is a guy who he has an odd swing. And he loves to get these bloop hits, and he gets jammed, and he flicks the ball to right field. I mean, he hit a shot to left field to win the game. But Harper is more of a guy that he has 2 quadrants where he can strike out. It is breaking balls low and high fastballs, letter high. Castellanos, his only weakness is striking out on the outside slider, which he occasionally gets to and flicks it to right field. So I think it was more of a situation where it was a better matchup Miguel Harper over Miguel Castellanos because of what Castellanos can do and can cover the outside corner and can flick that ball. Harper was trying to pull the ball. That's all he was doing. Stay on the outside of the plate, and if he hits the ball over the wall to left center or left field, tippy cap. That's it. Like, you're giving these guys opportunities, and with runners on, I don't care if you're Diaz, McGill, Sevy, it puts more pressure on you, right? Now you're worried about throwing that pitch in the dirt to advance runners, right? That's the other thing. You're putting yourself in a situation where you didn't need to put more runners on. And obviously, one runner mattered, but putting more runners on just puts more pressure on the pitcher. Go after him. Don't be afraid of it. How many times have they failed in this series already? Right? For how many innings did they fail? There was boo birds all throughout the first couple of innings of that game. When Castellanos laid off that third slider earlier in the game against Severino, you got a golf clap and a cheer from the Philly crowd because he laid off of it.
He didn't like that at all.
They were yeah, I know. They were going against them. It was all in their favor. So challenge them. You walk guys, and then what do you expect was going to happen? We all knew Harper was going to hit that home run. We all knew it. I still felt confident the Mets were going to win the ball game. Now, the Phillies, they won this game. But they also got in the back of their mind that the Mets did come back again against them. And, one thing changes, they could have been down 2-0. Now, they're not. Credit to them. They executed. But I don't know how much more we wanted the offense to execute. We needed one goddamn pitcher to execute in this game. And they did not. And there's your game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I don't think there's really much else to be said on the pitching front with that. I mean, Edwin Diaz, it's tough. He didn't get the job done. An unusual, I guess. We saw it with Edwin Diaz before back in 2022 when Buck Showalter would bring him in. Not in the ninth inning to face a higher leverage situation, but again, just a little disheartening to see that. But again, it's the execution from all of these guys, right? From Severino, who was rolling, and then I don't know if he lost gas. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what went wrong with Severino. It really was that one pitch.
Why stop throwing a fastball? I just don't understand.
I don't get it either. And it's like, yes, Trea Turner was chasing, but you still got 98 to 99 in your back pocket. Why are you abandoning that? Like, it makes no sense. Why are you trying to get cute? And we said it in the pregame, Rob. We were like, listen, let's avoid what happened to with Bryce Harper in that game in Philadelphia a couple weeks back by throwing him a multitude of pitches, especially sweeper/sliders in a row, and they did the same thing. They did the same thing. The definition of insanity is repeating yourself and expecting a different result if said result is one you don't like. So why would you do the same thing? Again, you just hope the next time around, if there's a next time around for Luis Severino, that they learn from that mistake, which has happened twice now. So yeah, I agree. This game was in the Mets' palms. It was in their grasps. It took one pitcher to execute, maybe even before McGill. And I don't even think McGill did a bad job. I'm not even going to lie to you. He made one he made one mistake, as Carlos is saying in the chat, which I agree with, of that evaluation to Castellanos. I think that could have been a lot better located. But again, this is the NLDS. This is primetime baseball. They're gonna punish your mistakes. And it's just unfortunate, but top to bottom, they needed one guy to come through and they did it. And it's unfortunate because this offense really did the job. Outside of Harris, they looked the offer and he looked pretty bad. I would expect Tyrone Taylor to be out there again to start the next game. Top to bottom, this lineup absolutely battled. And we've seen these statements being thrown around. They battled, they battled that, but this was the definition of battling. They did a great job. And I think the at-bats, especially against Christopher Sanchez, that they worked were awesome. The opposite field, as we talked about to begin this series, right, is going to be so important to utilize if you're the New York Mets. And we saw Mark Vientos do it for a home run. We saw Pete Alonso do it for a home run. Shout out to Pete as well. It seems like he's also getting a little bit more comfortable in that box. But again, they did their job. The pitching today reversed from what the season usually told us about the pitching doing their job and them picking up the offense, right? A little bit more so than we'd like. The offense absolutely did their job. You talk about 11 hits. Anytime you get 11 hits in the ball game, and especially 6 runs, I feel pretty confident with the Mets pitchers that you win that ball game. That wasn't the case tonight, though.
Yeah, and you know what? You know, it's frustrating because Vientos had a night and there's nothing to show for it except, accolades on his, with his stats. And again, he has great numbers batting in the 2-hole. I know a lot of people wanted the Iglesias up there, but his best numbers are in the 2-hole, and he's perfect in that spot, and he's doing well. Like, Lindor shouldn't be a leadoff hitter, but he's great as a leadoff hitter, right? Vientos is just does well in the 2 spot for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a mindset. I don't know, but losing his game, look, it sucked because going up 2-0 to Citi Field, I mean, it probably would have all been over, to be quite honest with you. I think the Phillies would have been dead, to be quite honest. I think they just would have showed up and just, had their bags already packed getting into Citi Field. But, the comeback, the 2 comebacks, basically, right? The Nimmo home run, the Vientos home run. Amazing that they did it again, right? They didn't win this time. Understandable, right? They didn't finish the job, but how can he not feel confident still, right? Do you think that the Phillies feel confident? I don't think so. I really don't think so, right? That celebration was more of a, oh, thank God we didn't lose this game, to be quite honest with you, because they deserve to lose this game. To be really honest with you, they deserve to win this game. They're pitching again. Their bullpen that has been pretty decent for them, they can't get us out. They can't get us out. If you really think about it, the pitching in the playoffs has cost us. And it's not been Ottavino or Brazaban. It's been the guys that you expect to be in the big spots, right? Regardless if they're in the 7th, the 6th, the 9th, doesn't matter, right? Diaz, and I if you don't mind to bring it up at this point. Oh,
sure,
Diaz,
go ahead. No, please do.
That was the perfect spot for Diaz, right? I know some people were like, oh, McGill was warming up. Maybe you put McGill in there, save Diaz. Here's the problem, right? Either way, I would have been okay, but it just felt like the right move to put Diaz in there. Diaz just didn't do the job. He had no fastball. He can't pitch with no fastball. But guess what, guys? Mendoza doesn't know that. How's he going to know that until he actually goes out there on the mound, right? If it worked, genius. If it doesn't work, are we blaming Mendoza in this spot? No. Because look, he even brought in Buto. We didn't have to bring in Diaz that early. He didn't want to, but Buto couldn't get the job done. And Buto's starting to be concerning at this point now, right? Is he almost out of the circle of trust? Because he can't throw strikes right now. They're hitting him hard. And if he did the job in that inning, we wouldn't have seen Diaz. You might have went to McGill in the 8th and Diaz saving for the 9th. But it's a trickle-down effect. The guy doesn't do well that you have a direct line of who you put in that spot. Jose Buto. Okay, I didn't hear nobody complain about that, right? He's been struggling, but he also did a good job not just recently. So it's like a hit or miss here. Like, he's been good, he's been bad. It's like, what are you going to get? You don't know, right? If Buto does the job, you got your setup the way you wanted it to. You still got a lead. Diaz doesn't come in. You probably put McGill in the 8th, and maybe you do win this game. Now, it's a lot of what ifs, but it comes down to execution, regardless of who's the name, right? The offense did their job. They really did. And it's frustrating. I mean, again, this is why this team is dangerous, and they still are. They can battle you with power, and they can battle you with singles. But again, the Phillies, look what they did. Where did most of their home runs come from? Their runs come from? The long ball, right? The long ball. They got a couple of big hits, absolutely. But again, they got back into this ball game because of the long ball. That's why I never want to pitch around anybody, because they're looking for the multi-hit home run. What did I say, Chris, in the pregame? Avoid the multi-hit home runs, the 2-run homer, the 3-run homers. because that bites you in the ass. And a lot of times, especially with this Mets team, they seem to scare away from certain hitters and allow the runner or the batter to be of a possibility a 2-run homer, a 3-run homer, possibly a tying home run, right? Castellanos in that spot, you left it up. What do you it is what it is in that spot. But the Harper one kills me more because you did not have to walk Turner. And that's the thing. Go after these guys. They're looking to fail. Their backs against the wall. They're squeezing that bat tighter. When you basically set it up for them on a silver platter, they're going to fucking eat it. And that's the problem. Go after these guys. And I hope they learn from it because the Mets did learn from that in game 3 after game 2 in the Brewer series. Now, it's different teams, but it's a very similar setup. What was the main problem? They started to get cute, right? They didn't walk. Obviously, it was solo home runs, but in game 2, if you look, they walked the guy. They gave up a home run. It was the same thing. They were scared to pitch to certain guys, and then you put people on base for the multi-hit run, the multi-hit inning, and the multi-hit home run, and that kills you. The solo home run to Turner wouldn't have mattered. That's the problem. The execution and the pitch selection and the bullshit pitching around certain guys for what reason makes no sense, right? If you got a 2-run lead, why pitch around somebody that you're scared of when if he hits a solo home run, it's not a tie game? And that's what I don't understand. And they did it again. And this is twice in this series where it didn't cost them in the Brewers series because they won it eventually. But if this comes back to haunt us and we lose this series, we're going to go back to this game. No matter what happens the rest of the way, game 3, game 4, obviously it's going to go at least to game 4. But regardless of if we win or lose, especially if we lose, we're going to come back to this game. You had a 3-run lead. You tied, came back multiple times. And the execution and the scared tactic of pitching. We talked about it. Don't be scared. Why? It doesn't make sense.
I don't know, but Rob, I don't know if they were really scared though. Like the McGill, the only at bat that I think I can confidently say I don't know why you're taking that kind of approach was maybe McGill to Turner in that last inning. Severino, right, to Turner before the Harper home run, he was getting cute. He wanted to put him away and let him chase off the slider. And I can't blame him for it, but he didn't execute that pitch. And honestly, I'm agreeing with you in the fact that you can't abandon your 4-seam fastball when you're throwing 98, 99, and they're having a little bit trouble catching up in the zone. But again, I don't know if I would label it as scared. I would just label it as misexecution, to be honest, from my perspective.
But again, look, Severino, Diaz, and McGill, right? They all threw their second or third best pitch to cost them, right? I think we can all agree on that, right? Severino went away from his fastball, his best pitch, right? Diaz couldn't throw his fastball for strikes. It was wild. So what's the only pitch he has left? The slider, which was sharp, but when you're expecting that pitch and not looking fastball at all because you can't throw it for a strike, you're waiting for it. And the same thing with McGill. His splitter and his fastball is 2 best pitches. He throws a slider to Castellanos that speeds up his bat. That's the one pitch I don't want to throw to him. And,
I agree.
I agree. Scared is the wrong word. You're absolutely right about that. Cute is probably the better word. Like I said earlier, they were getting cute with a lot of pitches.
Absolutely.
Oh, look him swing at that silly slider. Like it felt like they wanted to look good striking these guys out instead of just pounding the fucking zone. Because each one of those guys, their best pitch, McGill, Diaz, and Severino, is their fastball. Pound the strike zone with that fastball, or at least somewhere, even if it's outside the zone. What fastballs had they hit in this series so far? Not many. It's all been on breaking balls, and it's frustrating. It's really, really, really frustrating. The only fastball. I think
Schwarber's was a home run off a fastball of Senga, no? Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And then, then Senga's fastball is not his best pitch. It's his ghost fork. But what do you do? As soon as that fastball went over the fence, he barely threw that fastball again. He threw the ghost fork. Yeah. So it comes back to throwing your best pitch.
And again, the New York Mets, I think this is, you know how I'm surprisingly like calm right now? I don't know what it is, but it's like this is a loss that I look at. Normally, I'm like steaming over a loss. And honestly, I'm like probably deep down, I'm steaming because like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
this was a game the Mets should have like had and not given the momentum over to the Phillies because again, Severino was cruising, right? And like you said, and like we just both said, one pitcher comes through, your offense came through, that should be a 2-0 series lead. But the Mets weren't overmatched. It's not like the spotlight for this team is too much. I feel good about the Mets team, right? I feel good about this team right now, and I feel good going into game 3. And I know we're talking about, missed execution pitches. We're talking about whether they got too cute or whether they're just scared or whatever. The bottom line is that the Mets are still in a great position. And, for everyone thinking that we're up here trying to be as negative as possible, this is us just breaking down the game on a pitch by pitch basis in terms of what we would have rather saw and what we saw, right, while we were watching this game on our TV screens or computer screens or however you're watching the game. So again, I think Rob and I, right? Rob, you can back this up. We're feeling good going into game 3. We'll talk about game 3 here in just a second before we kind of close things out. But I think the consensus is that we're feeling good. We're feeling absolutely good. Listen, we got over 200 people in the chat here. Whether you're part of Rob's live stream over on his channel or whether you're in my channel, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It is ever so important. We appreciate it. And if you are not subscribed to one channel versus the other, make sure you subscribe to both of our channels because we will be doing pregame and postgame coverage pretty much for every single game from here on out. Tomorrow's an off day. We'll find some time late night to do a roundtable TBD on the time, but we're going to try to get that in, get everybody's perspective. But you know the deal. We're not going anywhere just because the New York Mets lost this ball game. Again, a little bit of a heartbreaker, but am I overly worried about it, Rob? Again, I don't think that you are. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but personally,
No.
I'm not worried about it. And
Yeah.
this is coming from someone that was very worried about dropping that game 2 in Milwaukee. And I had a very uneasy feeling about this team going into game 3, and they got it done. And they proved me, I wouldn't say wrong because I still had confidence in them. But again, I was very nervous going into game 3, probably because it was an elimination game. But again, 1-1 going back to Queens. You got your ace presumably on the mound on Tuesday versus Aaron Nola for the Phillies. Is there anything else that you want to cover on this game, Rob, while we're at it before we move into a little bit of a preview and get up on out of here?
Yeah, look, in the moment, I threw my phone, like I thought I broke it. Quite honest. In the moment, the all that frustration came out because like I don't like losing games we should have won on simple mistakes, and they weren't. It wasn't errors. It wasn't. Just bad play. Like, did they really? The fundamentals were fine. It was just pitch execution, which you can say the same thing for the Phillies, right? I mean, just think the Phillies pitching. What hope do they continue to have with their pitching? They've been using their best bullpen arms, and they're still giving up the runs. They're still giving up leads. So I'm not too. I'm concerned because. Well, that's a bad word. I'm not concerned because the Mets already had a bad loss in the postseason and they bounced back, right? It took them to come back once again, but now we're actually home. Let's see how they come back home because, again, we don't know, right? Explosive says there's pressure on the Mets in game 3. No, there's not. There's none. There's no pressure on the Mets at all. There's still a ton of pressure on the Phillies, right? They still have to prove, right? In the 5th inning, right? The Boo Birds were out at Citizens Bank Park, all right? If the Mets don't hit at Citi Field, they're not going to get booed, all right? First off, a lot of people believe we don't belong here, and we never thought we would get here, which at this point, who cares if you're supposed to be or not? We're here. But let's see how the Phillies play on the road, all right? This is their 3rd game coming up. They're 1-1 in the first 2, right? The Mets, look, there was a possibility we would have never had a home more than one home game at Citi Field. Now we have 2. Now, again, if you lose game 3, are you going to get a little nervous? Yeah, because you're on elimination mode. You're going to be nervous. But you got Mania going, right? They beat Sevy, you beat Wheeler. Well, technically you didn't beat Wheeler, but you beat them while he pitched. it's a very interesting game on Tuesday because it's the first home game for the Mets in the postseason. We don't know how now there's going to be nerves because you're human, but I wonder how both teams are going to react, to be quite honest with you, Chris. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I mean, I'm not going to be a smartass and say, oh, the Mets are going to be fine. And, they're going to roll in there with their head up. I mean, their head's going to be up high, and it's going to be exciting because you're at home. But the adrenaline might be too much for them, and they might be overswinging, overthrowing. That's what you worry about a little bit because you saw the Phillies, besides Wheeler, like they was trying to do too much with the bat after Schwarber. That was obvious. And then it kind of caught them when it was like, oh shit, look, the Mets took the lead and now we're in trouble, right? That's what you got to avoid because they got the first at bat and they can set the tone. So coming back home, I'm going to be confident, right? We have home field advantage 2 out of the next 3 games. The whole goal here is to not go back to Philly, right? If it does, it is what it is. You just fucking win in Philly. But right now, we don't have to think about that. Just do your job tomorrow. You almost played a complete game today. The offense did their job, right? Remember, go back to the Brewers. The offense did not do their job in game 2. They did in the game 1, and they bounced back in game 3 late. When the Mets lose, it's usually not because of the pitching, right? Today was. I'm confident, especially in the bullpen. I think the bullpen's going to be fine. I think Mendoza is going to go on a different route and probably stay away from Buto and again go back to Maton and Stanek because I trust those guys more than anybody because those are the guys that have been there before, right? Jose Buto has had a so-so postseason. Sorry, I keep on ranting, but my mind just.
I don't know if I trust. I don't know if I trust in Maton. I'm going to disagree with you there, but I hear what you're saying on Stanek.
Yeah, well, I trust Maton. I do. Like, I think he was worn out pitching, 5 out of the last 6 days or 4 out of the last 5. I think he was worn out. It's not like he's worn out like, oh, he can't throw his 98 miles an hour fastball. Sometimes when you throw so much, you can't be sharp anymore, right? You're going to get under your curveball, under your off-speed pitches, and they stay up, right? I think he, especially in a situation like these, right? I don't think Maton was available today. I mean, he might have been, but you had the guys you wanted to go. Buto and McGill and Diaz were you guys. These are your circle of trust guys. They didn't get the job done. And you just hope that the offense doesn't tighten up a little bit for the Mets at home. Because it could happen. The Phillies did it, right? Good teams at home, sometimes you get a little tight because you wanna excite the crowd. You want to get them going. But I think the Mets are going to be fine to have that long rant stopped by a couple of words.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the consensus here, right, especially from me, is that I'm not really. Of course, the Mets are going to feel pressure. Like they're not going to completely not feel pressure. Both of these teams are feeling pressure. This is postseason baseball. Some of these guys, right, especially like an Alvy or Vientos, right, like these are the biggest games of their young careers so far. So of course, some of these guys are going to naturally feel pressure. If you played sports, if you got to big situations and you came up at bat in a big situation, you feel your heart like pumping a little bit extra. Like that's natural. That's like a human reaction to a big situation with thousands of fans watching you. So that the pressure comparison doesn't really make sense to me because both of these teams are going to feel pressure. It's 1-1. We get it. This team has earned the benefit of the doubt. They really have earned the benefit of the doubt. They have come up in so many crucial situations, again, especially recently with this offense, and proven that they are not going to roll over and die like everybody is expecting them to. You look at a pitch in Vientos in him tying up this ball game tonight. That was a good pitch by the opposing pitcher who has been solid for the Phillies all season long in Strom. He threw a ball that was 2 balls above the upper part of the strike zone, and Vientos was still able to muscle it out. And this is a common theme, is that the Phillies bullpen has looked like trash. They've looked bad. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The Phillies bullpen has looked bad.
That's why I'm confident. Sorry.
And no, you're good. They've looked bad. I think anybody with a set of eyes could see that. So as a Mets fan, even though they dropped this game, how can you not be confident with them going back to Queens? I'm just going to say that right now. It seems like the offense is taking better at bats. They're able to squeak out a win, in a Zach Wheeler start by getting to the bullpen again today, better at bats against Christopher Sanchez and continued better at bats against the bullpen. Go out there and get a job done. I'm curious how the Mets are going to align their bullpen behind presumably Sean Manaea, which is what I wanted to talk about here for a few minutes before we end the stream. Again, please hit the thumbs up. If you want to talk Mets baseball, whether it's win or lose, this is what we do on the channel. Subscribe to both of our channels, CP, NY Sports, and Talkin' Mets with Rob. Please go ahead and subscribe. But again, you have Sean Manaea presumably versus Aaron Nola. You see the regular season statistics here. Sean Manaea was the best Mets pitcher. He was the ace. And, Aaron Nola has been really good against the Mets in his career, but not unbeatable. Certainly not on the level of Zach Wheeler. We know how lethal that curveball is. But again, let's not kid ourselves. And I know that Philly fans know this better than anybody. The Phillies announcers, right? When the Mets roughed up Nola in that start in Philadelphia the last time around a couple weeks ago, they even said it on their broadcast. Aaron Nola, when it gets to, he kind of, I feel like, folds under pressure a little bit. I feel like Aaron Nola does. Now, I don't want that to come back and bite me because I'm just going to knock on wood real quick. I know that he's a talented pitcher. I've seen it multiple times. He's got 200 plus strikeouts in his career against the Mets. He's had infinite success against the Mets in his career. I understand. But the lineup that he is about to face on Tuesday, I think is a different version of a Mets lineup than he's ever seen before with how everybody's rolling right now. I really do. So you got to take advantage of a game that you have your best starting pitcher on the mound. They failed to do so in Milwaukee. It was disheartening. But again, Sean Manaea got pulled after 86 pitches. I think that Sean Manaea is going 100 plus in this game. And I think that as long as he has it, as long as he's pitching like the Sean Manaea that we know, Mendy's going to trust him a little bit more before he goes to that bullpen. I think he wanted to do that with Severino tonight. But again, that one inning, he just kind of fell apart and crumbled. And I think it was time to get a new arm in there, a fresh arm, because I think he just fizzled out a little bit. But now the series is tied 1-1. You head back to Citi Field. You got 2 at Citi Field. To me, you're still feeling good. You got your best pitcher on the mound. The offense is rolling. You've seen the majority of their bullpen already and what they got, which is presumably not much. I don't see how you cannot feel good if you're the New York Mets right now, Rob. I mean, take me through what you're looking for in this matchup in Game 3. Again, we weren't lying to you when we did our series preview. We weren't lying to you in yesterday's pregame and the pregame today. We knew this was going to be a tough series. Absolutely. Whether the Mets won tonight or not, we knew this series wasn't over because of one game. So I hope nobody's thinking that like, oh, these guys got overly confident. They thought the series was over. No. That's not what we said. That's not what we said at all. We knew this was going to be a tough series. But I think the Mets, personally, with what I've seen this season and their resiliency, they are a team that is built to withstand tough series. When it comes down to it and you need that execution, that crucial moment, it didn't happen today. But again, they've got here because more often than not, they have been able to come through in those key situations, especially recently when you take a look at the Milwaukee series, the Braves, right? Game 1 of the NLDS. Let's relax, Mets fans. This is my kind of like cautiously optimistic, I guess, selling point to you all. Let's relax a little bit. It's not the end of the world. It really isn't the end of the world. What do you think, Rob?
The difference between a wild card round and an NLDS round is that as soon as you win one game, elimination is looming. In this spot, you got a little bit of breathing room from both teams, by the way. But we said it multiple times, right? We know the Phillies are a good team. We know it was going to be a tough series, right? Unless you're a Philly fans who thought they were going to sweep us, this is more of an even matchup, and I can care less what the rosters and what it says on paper. It's a very much an even matchup because for the most part, the starters for the Phillies have done their job. The bullpen for the Phillies haven't done their job. For the most part, the Mets offense done the job. It hasn't been the pitching at all, basically. I mean, the bullpen was pretty decent, in Game 1. But there wasn't much pressure after they went up 6-1. But Coming back home, the fans are going to be the fans. Again, the Mets were able to win game 1 with the fans going bonkers, right? The fans were a little bit more subdued today because they were nervous, which they should be, right? They could have went up. They could have been down 2-0, right? I don't want them to overhype everything, these players, right? I don't think they will because they played in big games already at home, over the last month, how big these games were, especially that Philly series at home later in the season, how the packed crowd and all that. It's going to be a very similar situation there, right? The Phillies obviously weren't playing for much except for clinching the division. But with Manaea, we need Ace Manaea on the mound because Aaron Nola, and I fought with Philly fans for years. They used to go, oh, he's better than this guy. He's better than that guy. He's best pitcher in baseball. He's out. He's your ace. He was never your ace. Aaron Nola is not good enough to be an ace. Now, let me stop that by saying that he has 2 types of ways to pitch. Either extremely good or extremely bad. I just looked at his home road splits. Basically even. Almost
0 to
even.
100 is what you're saying. 0 to 100 for Aaron
Yeah, that's
Nola.
what he does. Like, he's either going to be very on, even if he has this curveball, he's either going to be great or bad. So his home road splits, I just wanted to check that out really quick. At home, he's a little bit better ERA, right? 3.29, 3.87. Same win-loss record. Same amount of games started. A little bit more innings at home, right? But he has 20 more hits given up away. RBI runs and earned runs are around the same. He's given up 30 home runs this year, 15 on the road, 15 at home, which is a little surprising considering that the bandbox of Citizens Bank, but it's very similar. Batted average is a 50-point difference home and the road. It's worse on the road. So what is the key for the Mets here, right? We know what Manaea has to do, right? He's got to pitch and just be within himself. Throw your best pitches when you need to throw your best pitches. Don't try to fool anybody and sneak something by them, or play the silly game that the Mets pitchers did today because it cost you every single time. Throw your best pitch. Whatever you're feeling is your best pitch, which should be your fastball or that sinker that he throws up in his zone. Here we go again, Chris. We're talking about up in the zone with a fastball or a sinker. Stay within yourself. Don't try to be cute. Don't try to be something you're not, because that gets you in trouble. Let the Phillies lose the game because they should have lost today, right? The Mets gave him this game. I swear to God, I said that to my dad. I said it. I like, we lost this game, right?
Right. It's a fact. It's a fact.
Today, and that's the problem. That's why we outplayed them. We should have won. Again, too bad for us, right? Ifs don't matter. Execution does. That's what they got to do today. They were fundamentally sound until your pitchers weren't. And Manaea's just got to be what he needs to be. He needs to be a guy that knows what he has to throw. Just don't get cute. Pitch your game. Pitch your game. Because as much as people are saying that, oh, you're going home, Mets are going home, there's going to be pressure on them. No, it's not. I'm looking at the post-game interview a little bit. I don't have the volume up, but I'm looking at it. They still look calm, cool, and collected. Are they disappointed? Absolutely. And I wish I heard what they were saying, but they still look calm. Mendoza looks calm, right? That's what he's been all year. That's what the team's going to be, calm. Go into this game with the fans behind you, being who you've been for over 100 games this year, including the playoffs. Be the team that bounces back after a tough loss. This was a tough loss. Not an excruciating loss, a tough loss. Execute. That's it. I feel like the Mets are going to score runs. How many? Who knows? But I think they're going to score runs. It's just a matter of, can the pitchers put up enough zeros throughout the game to win us a ball game? It's about time the pitchers do their job. Other than Quintana, nobody's done their job as a starting pitcher. Even though Severino in game 1, inning 5 and 6, he looked better, but it took him that long to get going. And he was basically done after that. Was 2 innings after that. we need a starter to step up here. At some point, besides Quintana, go figure, right? Jose Quintana is the one that pitched the best out of everybody so far. Minaya, you've been our ace. We're all behind you. Pitch like an ace tomorrow. Tuesday. Pitch like an ace, and I feel like the Mets are going to win because their offense is going to come through. That's what I think this game's going to come down to.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm also looking at like the bullpen usage as well in this game after, in terms of who comes in after Sean Manaea when he inevitably exits. Hopefully it's like somewhere in the 6th or 7th inning. I really do think with the way that he looked the last go around, I think you have to consider Reed Garrett in these crucial situations as well. Yep. He was absolutely electric. I think him and Stanek would be great as bridge guys to Edwin Diaz. Am I concerned about Edwin Diaz? I don't think so. Has he looked a little bit erratic recently? Yes. But again, if you're at this point of the season, you're not just gonna not throw Edwin Diaz. You know what I mean? Okay. You have to trust in one of the best closers, if not the best closer in the game, right? No matter how he's looked recently. So, I trust in Edwin Diaz. Again, just because he kind of looked erratic today, like let's not forget that he kept the team in the ball game back in Milwaukee to set up, that crucial win in game 3 as well. So, I'm confident the offense is going to come through. I think that I don't know what it is, but it looks like the offense has taken this challenge and they've accepted it. And they're like, listen, we know that the pitchers have had our backs all season long. Now it's our turn and our time to go out there and do the same thing and return the favor. But again, with the bullpen, one name also that I don't know what their plan is for him in terms of if they're going to want him to start one of these games. With Sean Manaea going game 3, presumably Quintana going game 4, I would guess. And then if it happens to go back to a game 5, I would assume Kodai Senga is available for like maybe 60 pitches this time out if he's feeling up for it, which is great. I think David Peterson's going to have to come out of the bullpen yet again in one of these games. I think that what he provided in terms of the production value, he's going to have to sort of replicate that, and his number will be called in that situation once more. But again, I see a question here in particular about, why Edwin Diaz was in the situation that he was in today. Rob, I know you explained it before. If you want to rehash your explanation again, because I think a lot of people were kind of questioning, like you said earlier in this stream, right, why he was there versus maybe a Tyler McGill, et cetera. So if you want to rehash what you said before.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to say something before we get into Diaz. The Phillies used Estevez in the 8th, who was their closer, right, to get the Mets in basically their best part of the order for the most part. Wanted to get that 8th inning and put zeros after they took the lead, right? So why is nobody questioning Thompson about that move? Because he got the job done, right? That was the right spot for Diaz. Again, nobody knows he doesn't have a fastball until you see it on the mound, right? That's the issue. We've seen Diaz enough. When he doesn't have his fastball, it's going to be an adventure. He might get away with doing good, and you might have guys feeling like they somewhat were. But if he doesn't have his fastball, he's a one-pitch pitcher. And hitters are going to stay and wait for that one pitch that he's going to throw, because he clearly didn't have his fastball and he kept on going to sliders because there's no other pitch to go to. The issue and the only issue was the execution here. That was the right move by Mendoza. Now, my dad disagreed. He thought McGill should have been in the game in that spot. But again, Diaz wouldn't have been in the game. Chris, we just talked about it. Why was Diaz in the game? Because Jose Butto did not do his job. That wasn't a Diaz spot. This wasn't planned by Mendoza. If the 7th inning comes and we have a lead and the top of the order comes, I'm going to put Diaz in the ballgame. Now, if that came up in the 8th, if Butto would have done his job, I think would have been, and got out 1, 2, 3, it would have been 2, 3, 4 in the 8th. That would have been the Diaz spot. But it wasn't planned for Diaz to come in the 7th. because Budo failed, that's why he was in the game. So we got to remember that.
Yeah. To add on to that, also, I don't know if anyone's been watching, the New York Mets versus the Philadelphia Phillies and how Kyle Schwarber has looked against Edwin Diaz when you have runners on base and as big of a home run threat that Kyle Schwarber is. Kyle Schwarber does not like to see Edwin Diaz on that mound. He's 0 for 8 coming into tonight against Edwin Diaz in his career. And that slider, that back foot slider that Edwin Diaz loves to throw, gets Kyle Schwarber every single time. And he got him again on that pitch today when Schwarber looked like an absolute fool on that strikeout. So I believe he struck out. I believe that was the end result, right? In that seventh inning. Right. And we knew that Edwin Diaz was available in whatever sequence it was going to be for 4 outs. I think that was the consensus, is that, regardless if it was, in the 8th inning and then the 9th for 4 outs, or the 7th inning going into the 8th to take care of the top of the batting order, you were going to get Edwin Diaz for 4 outs. It didn't work out well, obviously, in the 8th inning for him. But again, right, Kyle Schwarber versus any other pitcher not named Edwin Diaz in that 7th inning, with the Phillies threatening 2 guys on base, I don't see how you would put in anybody else outside of Edwin Diaz. And it paid off in the 7th inning. It just didn't work out in the 8th inning, right? I think the plan was, right, Buto finishes. This is what the original plan was. Buto finishes the 7th, hopefully unscathed. He got into trouble, did not pitch cleanly, right? He hit his first batter. That's always a bad sign of things to come. And then the original plan was a clean Buto 7th, probably right with the top of the order, still going with Edwin Diaz in the 8th.
In a clean inning. Yeah.
In a clean inning, a la 2022, where Buck Showalter utilized him in the 8th inning in high leverage situations a ton, right? And then probably Tyler McGill to close it out in the 9th. Now, they brought in Edwin Diaz 1 batter too early. It really still shouldn't have mattered, and I don't think that really influenced the end result. I think that they just didn't execute at the end of the day. But no doubt in my mind, to anybody questioning why it was Edwin Diaz against Kyle Schwarber, just go rewind the tape, or if you don't even want to watch tape, go out there and just look at like StatMuse or something like that. You'll see Kyle Schwarber can't touch Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, and Harper, the same thing. Harper was 2 for 15? His 2 hits were home runs, but it's in that same sequence, he has 11 strikeouts as well. So, there's a lot to look at there. Like the guys that he was facing, the numbers all said Diaz, right? Regardless if they were, 2 years ago, whatever, 1 year ago, it doesn't matter. 3 years ago, it doesn't matter. The fact is, that's all in everybody's mind, including the hitter and the pitcher, right? Managers make moves, especially with pitching, on numbers most of the time, right? Just because 30 years ago, there wasn't analytics like they are today, craziness, but they still looked at the numbers, right? There was more of a set plan for a lot of pitchers, like you're my 7th, you're my 8th, you're my 9th, but they still looked at the numbers as well. There were still matchups in baseball, right? How long was there a lefty specialist, right? That's a matchup, right? So the matchup set up well. And this is why I always tell you, and I told Phillies fans this yesterday, just because it looks good on paper doesn't mean it's going to end up that way every single time, right? You still got to execute. The Phillies still had to hit the ball. Edwin Diaz still had to make the right pitch. It comes back to execution on both sides, right? That's what happened today, right? It wasn't a wrong decision. It just became execution. And the Phillies had just a little bit more execution today to get them over the hump. And it came down to pitchers not executing for the Mets today. If you do this over again 20 times, you might win 19 out of 20. But that doesn't happen. Obviously, that doesn't happen, right? But again, what was the goal going into this series for the first 2 games at Citizens Bank?
Take 1.
Split. That's what happened. Now, this is always crazy with fans, right? Because you won game 1 and you lost game 2, it seems a lot worse than it actually is. But if it was flipped and the Phillies won game 1 and the Mets came out and win game 2, we would have been pumped for going home, right? So just think of it that way. Regardless of how it happened, we split. And that's the goal. You want to have the home field advantage going into game 3, and you do. 2 out of the next 3 are in your ballpark. Yeah, explosive. Yeah, it was a curveball, but it wasn't a death blow. That's what you're not understanding. You're overhyping this win when it all came down to a split, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what every road team goal, right? Go back to the sorry, Chris. I know I'm ranting again, but
No, you're
go
good. Don't worry. Do not
go
worry.
back go back to the series interviews for the manager, the players. They all said it, right? The ultimate goal, right? We obviously want to take the first 2 games on the road, obviously, but always the goal, in especially a 5-game series or even a 7-game series, right, is to take a split in the first 2 games in the road ballpark. That is always the goal. Of course, you want to take the sweep in 2 games and then go into it in elimination mode, going back home the next 2. But you have to understand the split is fine. Is it the best case scenario? Of course not. We could have had worst case scenario 0-2, but we didn't. Because it happened the way it did, it looks a lot worse. But it's not. It is exactly what you needed to do in a shitty way because you lost game 2. It feels a lot worse. But at the end of the day, you got home field advantage 3 and 4. How about this? Don't let them go back for a game 5. If it does, so what? We've proven we can do it already. We just take it from them in front of Phillies. Remember, they finally got their win over in they lost 3 out of 4 in Philadelphia, right? What do you think is the first highlight going to be shown if there's a game 5 an elimination game? They're going to go back to the Diamondbacks series, right? Lose it, Phillies losing at home. But don't let it happen. Let's see if they do that. Execute. Chris, I'm going to shut up now to end it.
No, you're good. I think what you're talking about is a little something called recency bias. It happens a lot in sports, right? It's called recency bias. And I definitely agree with you. Listen, I can understand the flip side of the coin in terms of, not getting over this loss as easily as we are because, right, this is a game, right, that you should have had and it was within your grasp to take and you would have took with better execution. And that's kind of what makes it like a bad feeling in your stomach. And I understand that. I'm hearing everybody that's on that side of the fence. I get it. But if you're on that side of the fence, to turn around and that make you uncomfortable with the Mets going back home and make you believe less in them, that's where I can't get on board with. So, but I do agree with Rob. I think that the recency bias does make it seem a little bit worse than it actually is. You got home field advantage. That's what you want. Of course, 2-0, we're not going to sit here and try to argue that 2-0 isn't better than 1-1. We know 2-0 is better than 1-1. We're just trying to tell you it's not the end of the world. But again, a comment in here that I've highlighted for this whole entire stream is this one because, dude, these announcers are absolutely brutal. I'm sorry. I respect Adam Wainwright and AJ Przynski and that the whole crew there they got, but like, come on, can you make it any more obvious in terms of your tone about the successes that each team has and your tone of voice? I don't know. And I'm not overthinking this. I know that I'm not overthinking this, but again, it's just like, dude, we all know it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like they got more hype over a Trea Turner stolen base in the first inning than a Mark Vientos double down the line. Give me a freaking break. That is embarrassing. Anywho, I get it. We lost. Understand. Change the narrative. Still my hashtag. Still the slogan. Mets win on Twitter's the hashtag. My hashtag is change the narrative. Change the narrative. That's it. 1-1 going back to Queens. Mets get 2 guaranteed home playoff games. The crowd is going to be electric, right? We saw the watch parties that the Mets have been hosting was great, but that's a fraction of what's going to transpire at Citi Field. Bring the hype, bring the energy. It's going to be electric. Hopefully this team shows up, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We're not telling you this is an automatic series win. I know people are going to take it out of context and they're going to try to write that narrative about what we're saying right now. Listen, Mets have proven themselves. They get the benefit of the doubt in my book. I think you can agree, Rob. Get it done. Best pitcher on the mound in Sean Manaea. Pretty good pitcher, but not their best in Aaron Nola. He's faltered a little bit in key situations. The offense looks good. Pitching needs to clean it up. They need to not get cute, as we mentioned way earlier in this stream at the top of the hour. If you know you have a good pitch, excuse me, my mic went out, and I'm kind of holding this here. My arm's getting tired. If you know you have a good pitch, please just continue to utilize it. Severino, that's your fastball. McGill, that's your newfound pitch, right? The splitter. Reed Garrett, that's probably your splitter. Sean Manaea, that's your sweeper. Just utilize your dominant pitch and work up in the zone with your two-seam sinker or your four-seam fastball. Because again, in today's MLB, that's the bread and butter for many, many pitchers, right? Many pitchers. So final thoughts, Rob, here before we kind of get off the stream. Over an hour, hour and 5. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the breakdown. Please subscribe again. The shameless promoting, the shameless plugging. Subscribe to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to my channel, CPNY Sports. I definitely appreciate it. Again, thank you all for over 1,000 subscribers on here. We're going to continue to cover New York Mets baseball, not only in the postseason. Whenever this magical Mets run is over, guess what? Hopefully you're not sick of us because we're covering this team in the offseason. Rob, final thoughts before we get up on out of here.
Yeah. And, I just had a conversation in the chat with Explosive. If you don't believe in this team by now, then you never will. Why? They've proven it time and time again throughout the season. Bad losses, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Brewers lost. Today with the Phillies loss, you go back to Atlanta, down, coming right back. The fact of the matter is, believe in this team, right? No matter if they lose or not, right? The belief should be there, right? And this is not about, they shouldn't have been there and you're playing with house money. This is the fact that they've proven they can win ball games against anybody, including the Phillies, right? And you could be scared of the Phillies, of course. Why not? But why aren't the Phillies? You don't think the Phillies are scared of the Mets? Did you see what they did today, even in a loss? You think the Mets are having their heads down? The Mets' heads were down after game 2. You saw that. They were in shock and awe mode. They looked shocked what happened in game 2 because they should have won. But both times, they lost games in the postseason when they started with the lead. When they had the lead early, they've lost both of those games. Each time they won in this postseason, they were behind. They were trailing. Now, I'm not saying go and start trailing and come back. No, please. Right? That drives me nuts as well. But just win. Do your job. The fans going to be pumping, no doubt. We're going to have pregame on Tuesday, no doubt. Yep. We are going to be pumped. We're going to be ready. And believe. Just believe. Because there's nothing wrong with believing. What Manaea pitches, he has been money at home. I mean, absolute money. Now, will that translate after his first 2 starts in the postseason? I don't know. We haven't seen it enough from Sevy. Hopefully, we get it from Manaea. Because if we don't, we also have the offense that also has proven that they can either come back at any moment. Now, at some point, look, you can't help. You don't have the last at bat on the road. So, you have to go into the ninth with a lead when you're on the road and close it out. You didn't have the bats. You didn't have the last licks. You will have the last licks here. So, good news is that the offense has been scoring a ton of runs. They have been. In the series, look how many runs they scored, right? They scored 12 already. So, they just didn't execute today, mostly the pitching, all of the pitching. So, believe. Enjoy your day off tomorrow. Take a breather and get back on the horse on Tuesday, ready to play games and postseason games in Queens in the transition year of 2024. That's my final thoughts, Chris.
Yeah, and that sounds absolutely fantastic. If we played a recording of that earlier when we were doing like spring training content, if we played a recording of that and knew that that was going to be the final outcome, we would be ecstatic. So job's not finished by any means. Cautious optimism, I think, is what we're preaching here. I personally understand, the pessimistic side of people's brains starting to creep up behind them. I get it. It's natural. We are Mets fans at the end of the day. I get it. right? We've been through a lot of painful moments. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you you shouldn't have any pessimistic thoughts, but I think right now, this 2024 team in particular has earned, right, that sort of benefit of the doubt in terms of getting this job done. Again, I've already said it. They're playing with house money at the end of the day as well. And that's kind of how I'll reassess this season once we do our season review stream. But again, I think this team has more baseball and a bigger stamp to leave on these 2024 playoffs. And that's just my personal opinion. It starts on Tuesday, game 3. We do have a question here from Cindy. Are you guys able to do an off day stream tomorrow? We're trying our best to do it. Hold
on. You want me to tell them? Because we were kind of about to say understand the same thing in this part, right?
Yeah, take it away.
Sorry, we're trying to do our best to do a roundtable tomorrow, scheduling wise, right? Some can't do it early, some can't do it, too, early enough, too late, or whatever. But if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be a late night roundtable, guys, like 9:15, 9:30 type of situation, because we want all 4 of us on the roundtable to be there. We don't want to be missing somebody, because again, we've done it through the season with people, with all 4 of us. It's a lot of fun with all 4 of us. It's playoff mode. We want to get the opinions of all 4 of us, right? The roundtable doesn't feel like the roundtable without all of us. So would it be cool to still do a roundtable with 3 of us? Yeah, of course. But we want all 4 of us there. I think that's fair to everybody who's put in hard work through the roundtable during this season. So hopefully that happens. And we're talking in the group chat as we live right now. We're going to get to the bottom of it. If not, we'll probably have solo shows at the very least. But definitely look out for a show. We're hoping it's the roundtable late edition on Monday.
Yeah, sorry. Listen, I'm literally holding my mic, and this is not ideal. I'm not in my usual setup, so don't get on me too hard here. I appreciate everyone being here, right? It's always healthy, I think, to talk about these sorts of these types of losses. And we definitely appreciate everyone being here. Again, please hit the subscribe buttons, hit the thumbs up buttons. We don't know if we're going to get the full roundtable tomorrow. Like Rob said, we're going to try to do something, whether it's solo shows or maybe even if Rob and I, are joined by Hector late at night and we can do something with the 3 of us. We like all 4 of us, but again, it just depends on scheduling and everybody's schedules are hectic. We try our best for you all. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up on both streams as well. I didn't have a live chat poll up on my channel today because I wasn't expecting to be in the setup that I'm in right now, so I didn't get to it. So I apologize about that. But again, subscribe to both channels. Myself, I'm over on X at CPNY Sports. You know what to do with Rob's channel at Talkin Mets with Rob. Make sure you subscribe, all that fun stuff. Rob, I definitely appreciate you taking the time here. This is, who's going to talk about this team for an hour and 15 minutes, damn near, after crucial brutal loss like this, right? Who's going to do it? That's right. We're going to do it because we love this team. And guess what? We just told you all, do not stop believing. It's been another episode or another edition of the Mets postgame show right here with myself, CP, and Rob. We got Nola versus Manaya with the series tied, NLDS between these division rivals. Nobody said it was going to be easy. Nobody tried to sell anybody that was going to be easy.
Yep.
But hopefully worth it with a series win for our New York Mets. Get it done. We don't want to go back to Philadelphia. Take the next 2 and get up out of there. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much. See you all later. Hit the notifications button to get notified when we do go live tomorrow. Catch you all later. Change the narrative. Let's go Mets.
Believe.